आशाओं की किरण जगाने वाले हम, जन जन से संपर्क बढ़ाने वाले हम, आशाओं की किरण जगाने वाले हम, जन जन से संपर्क बढ़ाने वाले हम, आशाओं की किरण जगाने वाले हम, जन जन से संपर्क बढ़ाने वाले हम, आशाओं की किरण जगाने वाले हम। नगर नगर ये ग्राम और ये गलियारे, भरने इनमें नवजीवन के उजियारे। नगर नगर ये ग्राम और ये गलियारे, भरने इनमें नवजीवन के उजियारे। बार बार हम दोहराते हैं यही कसम, यही कसम, यही कसम। आशाओं की किरण जगाने वाले हम, जन जन से संपर्क बढ़ाने वाले हम, आशाओं की किरण जगाने वाले हम, जन जन से संपर्क बढ़ाने वाले हम, आशाओं की किरण जगाने वाले हम। हमें हटाना घर घर से अंधियारा है, हमें तोड़नी पाखंडों की कारा है। हमें हटाना घर घर से अंधियारा है, हमें तोड़नी पाखंडों की कारा है। सच को कहने वाली चलती रहे कलम, चलती रहे कलम। आशाओं की किरण जगाने वाले हम, जन जन से संपर्क बढ़ाने वाले हम, आशाओं की किरण जगाने वाले हम, जन जन से संपर्क बढ़ाने वाले हम, आशाओं की किरण जगाने वाले हम। कदम मिलाकर नर नारी सब और बढ़े, ज्ञान और विज्ञान नए सोपान चढ़े। कदम मिलाकर नर नारी सब और बढ़े, ज्ञान और विज्ञान नए सोपान चढ़े। देना है संदेश यही हमको हरदम, यही हमको हरदम। आशाओं की किरण जगाने वाले हम, जन जन से संपर्क बढ़ाने वाले हम, आशाओं की किरण जगाने वाले हम, जन जन से संपर्क बढ़ाने वाले हम, आशाओं की किरण जगाने वाले हम, जन जन से संपर्क बढ़ाने वाले हम, आशाओं की किरण जगाने वाले हम, जन जन से संपर्क बढ़ाने वाले हम।
Welcome once again to PRSI's 43rd All India Public Relation Conference being organized on the theme Shaping Up New India Through Innovation, Creativity and Make in India Efforts, Role of Effective Public Relations. Let us begin the third segment of media. Our first session is Opportunities in Media Industry Post-COVID-19 Pandemic. Our learned speaker for this session is Dr. Amit Chawla, Professor, Amity, University of Communication, Amity University, Gurgaon. Dr. Amit is PhD in Mass Communication from Jamia Millia Islamia in New Delhi, an alumnus of Indian Institute of Management Kashipur, a qualified trainer from OCE ITC Netherlands. Dr. Amit Chawla has worked with some of the top institutions of India like National Institute of Fashion and Technology, Jamia Millia Islamia, Amity University, GGS Indraprastha University, Delhi, and over 20 others. He is an author. His maiden book on photography was released in 2018 by eminent filmmaker Sri Mahesh Bhatt. He has also published books, Digital Media for Learners, and Opportunities in Media Industry Post COVID-19 Pandemic. May I present to you Dr. Amit Chawla.
Hello, I'm Dr. Amit Chawla, Professor, Amity School of Communication, Amity University, Haryana. I'm a PhD in Mass Communication, alumni of IIM Kashipur, and a qualified trainer from ITC Netherlands. In the last 20 years, I have mentored UG, PG, and PhD students of 50 plus institutions like NIFT, Jamia Millia Islamia, Delhi University, Sharda University, Amity University, GGS IP University, and more. I've also been associated with names like Doordarshan, Sahara India, Canon, PIB, SSC, Jagran Group, etc. I've authored and edited 4 books, contributed chapters and articles in 11 books and index journals, and have shot more than 1,000 photos and videos till date. I'm also the founder of Photoshala, which is India's first one-stop destination for education, shoots, and consultancies related to still photography and video production. Before I proceed, I must congratulate the team of Public Relations Society of India and especially its national president, Dr. Ajit Pathak, for organizing the 43rd All India Public Relation Conference, Jansampark Kumbh. Shaping up New India through innovation, creativity, and Make in India efforts is an apt and much needed theme for such a conference in present context. Today, I shall be deliberating on the topic Opportunities in Media Industry post COVID-19 pandemic, which is also the title of our edited book that was recently published in 2 volumes. These have been authored by top professors and scholars from SRFTI, AJK MCRC Jamia Millia Islamia, IIMC, NIFT, Delhi University, Amity University, Sharda University, Central University of Himachal Pradesh, BIT Durg, St. Stephen's Kolkata, University Technology of Applied Sciences, Oman, etc. And by industry practitioners who come from NDTV, IGNCA Ministry of Culture, and InShots, and others. Padma Shri Naresh Bedi, who we all know is a pioneer filmmaker and award-winning wildlife photographer, wrote the foreword, and Shri Sitanshu Kar, ex-DG Prasar Bharati and former Principal Information Officer, Government of India, has written its preface. An extensive part of our book, it's a joint work and it emphasizes on how Indian media industry is innovatively addressing the challenges posed by the pandemic since the last 2 years. It is true that the COVID-19 pandemic brought about a paradigm shift in the media industry and has changed the way media organizations think, plan, and act. It is to be expected. Suddenly, many bright aspirants of the industry have developed a self-doubt. They are unsure if their dedication to the trade and their skills or their plans to acquire those in the next few years will they translate into a decent livelihood for them or not. Further, they seem confused about the demands of the new normal and what measures must be taken to keep up with the change in the expectations which are caused by the pandemic. On the other plane, the pandemic led to innovative ways of carrying out the challenging tasks of gathering and distribution of information while reversing the flow of misinformation, mostly spread through the volatile social media. As media is a very broad term, and there are various professional disciplines under this umbrella field, let us try and discuss some of the top subdisciplines one by one. Let us start with journalism. Journalism in India has had deep roots. In the history, it is considered to be the fourth pillar of democracy that keeps the other three pillars, that is, the judiciary, the legislative, and the executive, in check. It is an undeniable truth that newspapers, sale, and revenue received a huge setback during the pandemic. Radio news has always been under the government control and regulations. That leaves us with TV and digital platforms that attract the biggest pie of audience. A notable thing in this convergent form of journalism is the pattern of news consumption, which is no longer linear. Like the OTT, audience like to access on-demand and interest-based news, which can be audiovisual or short text with still photographs. Instant availability, easy accessibility, local impact of an event, and of course with personal touch is what drives the subscription basis. Also, ad revenues on TV, print news platforms have seen a dip. Thus, to cut down on costs, news platforms rely more on news agencies or infomediaries. New subdisciplines like data journalism, microjournalism, immersive journalism, solutions journalism, and mojo or mobile journalism have been trending in the past 3 to 5 years. Therefore, for someone who is aspiring to enter the world of news needs to understand these transformations and prepare themselves for the same. Radio has always been a medium of masses. While many rely on All India Radio for their daily dose of news and entertainment, most of the urban listeners have been spoiled for choices by so many FM channels which are made available in the last about 2 decades. Besides that, community radios, campus radios, ham radios have always had their own niche audience. However, this industry too saw some major shifts in the recent past. Listenership may not have gone down, but as their ad revenues had been on an all-time low during the pandemic, some privately owned FM channels had to shut down. However, many came back with some new opportunities with revolutionary work in the digital space. FM channels launched their flagship digital properties, or they partnered with the music OTT platforms to stay tuned with their listeners. Size of the studios shrunk, and many stations have also installed equipment at the homes of their RJs, turning those homes into home studios. These RJs have started using storytelling as an enduring technique to emotionally connect with the audience, create individual connections, and develop overall involvement in the process. Aside, the hyperlocal and multilingual content has also seen a rise on radio. Since the last 4 to 5 months, the industry has also seen a boost in the ad revenues. However, Tier 2 and Tier 3 stations have recovered more rapidly than the ones in the metros. When everyone was locked down in their homes due to the pandemic, what kept them ticking was daily dose of entertainment. Of course, TV was the source for it, and it should have been the most popular choice. However, Even TV media segment degrew after registering a compounded average yearly growth of around 7% in the last 20 years. The Indian television industry boasted that it was valued at 787 billion Indian rupees in the year 2019. Just 1 year later, 2020, it was valued at 685 billion rupees. 900 plus private television channels that are permitted in India. They all aggressively compete in this market for ad revenues. However, even after offering high quality content, their audience base has been constantly dwindling. This is primarily because high quality and exclusive content is now being offered on various OTT platforms, which can be accessed on PCs, internet enabled televisions, or even smartphones. Low data and subscription cost fuels this further. On OTTs, audience is free to watch content of their choice and not be forced to watch the AV content being aired in real time. These OTT channels even allow dubbed or subtitled version of content, thereby increasing the audience base by many folds. Broadcast Audience Research Council, which we all know as BARC, has revealed that India's specific viewership across the OTT platforms was nearly 4 hours per day a week, amounting to approximately 12% rise from the pre-pandemic era. Many innovative content creators, actors, performers, writers, etc. have found fame with OTT. Even if regional or psychographic programs are made with mediocre equipment or smartphones, they end up finding a paying audience on video on demand services. Evidently, the demand for good content and skilled content creators has tremendously increased, and those involved in this business are therefore eyeing good times ahead. 4.88 billion people are digitally connected by internet, and there are 5.29 billion unique mobile users globally. Thus, almost two-thirds of the global population is digitally connected. Half of the world's population uses social media now. And average daily use of social media is approximately 2 hours and 27 minutes. Clearly, the presence of digital media is unparalleled. It is the fastest growing and offers the widest spectrum of applications. Right from newspapers, magazines, radio stations, television, animations, films, and all other forms of media are now converging with digital. Online gaming, e-commerce, e-learning, virtual reality, bot-based chats, advertising, digital marketing, etc. are all few found gold mines because of ICT technology. Add social media to this list and the innovations in the last 10 years suddenly skyrocket to match all the innovations in the pre-digital era. Therefore, practice-based understanding of digital media and multitasking skills are a must for almost all kind of employments these days. Further, global boundaries or lavish infrastructure do not matter as much as the content quality does. Therefore, we see many local vloggers and bloggers finding spotlights and becoming public influencers. India is Asia's second fastest growing advertising market, right next to China. In terms of advertising expenditure, 67,603 crore rupees was spent on advertising in India in 2019. This was approximately 11% more ad investments than in 2018. The COVID-19 outbreak in December 2019 obviously heavily impacted all businesses around the world. Advertising was no exception. In the year 2020, a degrowth of minus 21.5% was logged by Indian advertising businesses. However, in 2021, the businesses saw a silver lining, and to revive, they started spending again on advertising. It is expected that by the end of this year, the ad expenses in India shall grow by 23.2% to reach rupees 80,123 crore. Important thing to be noted here is that pandemic adversely affected ad spends on media vehicles like print, outdoor, events, radio, cinema, etc. However, digital advertising and TV were the least hit. In fact, the ad spends on the OTT and online gaming saw an increase even during the pandemic time. Businesses did take a note of these revelations, of studies that suggested that audience consume approximately 60% more content when they are forced to stay indoors. Keeping this in mind, the ad gurus have started advocating the employment of innovative media vehicles and interactive content usage, as agencies are expected to craft engaging ad strategies as per specific business goals and target audience. Those who can bring in fresh ideas and integrated approach in the advertising world hold a very secured future in this business. While the advertising budgets were going down, many organizations relied on their PR teams to keep themselves afloat during the pandemic. Public relations emphasize on interpersonal interaction, building and sustenance of a long lasting relationship with its audience. That is exactly what we saw some of the good PR agencies indulging into during the times of pandemic. People were seeking information that was informative, inspirational, and such content was inventively created during the pandemic, and it helped the brands to build and strengthen relationships with their stakeholders. The McKinsey report of 2020 affirms that the digital technology adoption in the businesses has fast forwarded the 5 year ahead in just about 8 weeks time of the pandemic. So, adapting digital forms of public relation also is a necessity now, and is also the most cost efficient way of doing PR. During the pandemic, PR agencies adopted different forms of digital media to reach their target audience. These included helpful blogs, online events, personalized press releases, etc. But what possibly played the most significant role was PR personnel connecting with the stakeholders using social media like Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, Pinterest, etc. They used human interest stories, which helped the brands connect more with consumers. The PR agencies also helped the business gain leverage with the help of bloggers and influencers, as audience trust personal experiences more than direct advertisements or campaigns. Aside, investments are being made in the pragmatic PR, that is for automations and for efficient process controls with the help of artificial intelligence. Engaging with online communities, collecting customer feedback, spreading brand awareness, that is through the electronic word of mouth, or what we call the EWOM, creating and sharing empathetic posts on social topics such as health issues, web listening, audience analysis, all are important part of future public relations strategies. According to the Allied Market Research, the event industry was at a size of approximately 1100 billion US dollars in the year 2019, and was expected to reach 1500 billion US dollars by 2028 at a compounded growth rate of approximately 11.2%. The largest growth was expected to be in the music, sporting and corporate event industry and seminars category. But we all know that lockdown caused all such gatherings, events, and other kind of stuff to be cancelled. Clearly, the recent pandemic has had a profound negative impact on the event industry. 96% of the event professionals have experienced cancellations in the year 2020. Over 21% of the staff from event industry were unfortunately laid off in the financial year 2020-2021, which translates to over 100,000 people in India itself. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. Those who have remained in this industry have been forced to convert a face-to-face event to a virtual one. As of November 2020, approximately 73% of the event industry professionals had transitioned events from a face-to-face format to a virtual format. There is a steep learning curve associated with transforming a face-to-face event into a virtual world. Many departed the industry due to this barrier, as they are not so skilled in the technology to provide a rich experience to the attendees. But those who survived are witnessing the return of event industry, its grandeur, slowly but steadily. Due to the paucity of time, it is not feasible for me today to discuss the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on all subdisciplines of media industry. But I invite you to grab your copy of this book, which carries thoughts of over 35 communication experts and practitioners around the topic. And till the next time, it is a namaskar from me. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chawla, for sharing your valued experience with us. We now have with us Mr. Shekhar Ghosh, ex-chief photographer, India Today, who will share his valuable experience with camera through his presentation on corporate profile photography, Realizing a Dream. Mr. Shekhar is known in professional circles for his creativity, knowledge, and great human values. He comes from a very humble background from West Bengal. He has worked with Delhi Press, Business India, and The Week, India Today Group. Let us hear from Mr. Shekhar Ghosh how to realize your dream with camera.
Good morning, namaskar. Myself Shekhar Ghosh. I am a professional photographer. I have experience in 25 years in the corporate industrial photography. I have done my career as a publications house from Assam, Tribune. After that I came back to Delhi, start Delhi Press, Hindustan Times, Malayalam Manorama, Business India, Waha India, and my last job was with India Today Group as a deputy photo editor in Business Today magazine. I have done a lot of corporate and industrial photography for my personal client like PSU sectors and the private sectors. PSU sectors I have done Indian Oil Corporation Limited, that is one of the prestigious company, NTPC, Power Grid, and many more. And the private sectors I have done Jaya Srivastava, JK Group, Tribeni, Havels, etc. So today I thanks to Mr. Dr. Ajit Pathak from PRSI. He gave me a chance to explain and share my ideas, what is the important for the corporate and industrial photography. This is very important for the industrial photography and the corporate profile photography. The image, when you go for any of the corporate hunch, means the chairman, managing directors, CFOs, when you go for the shoot, then The profile is important because of that is the brand of the organizations, and we should, as a professional photographer, we should capture that perfect image for the particular organization brand equity. So the profile photography not a amateur things. We always try to capture proper lighting, proper dress up, contrast, locations, background, and his best way of looking, or the best things, how you manage him to comfortable in front of the camera. If he is comfortable in the camera, then you can have a great chance to capture his beautiful mood and smiling and perfect positions. So why corporate photography and industrial photography very important? Because of that is the image creation for your social media, your website, your business, what you are doing, that's we have to be highlighted through the online or even the social media, even in the your website. So a lot of people doesn't know how to make oil, how to make steel. So people want to know, just like Steel Authority of India, if they are making the steel, how to make steel. Not like that, they are going for the any mines and then got an iron and then immediately they are shaping different aspects. No, not like that. So that process, how can explain through my image for your brand, through your website, through your social media aspects, through your internal brochure. So I already explained what is the important for the industrial and corporate profile. Just like one line, that is the important as a photographer to how, as a photographer, your brand, your product, and your company's aspects, your locations, and how is the shape of your industry captured through the good lighting, good positions, good timing, and then that you can reflect to your website, social media, etc. Now I am going to the what is the important for the industrial photography. You can see my behind the scene, there is a lot of people's profile shots, political, corporate. This is the tower, you see the lighting, positions, corporate law firms. So as a corporate photographer, as an industrial photographer, I cannot compromise my quality of image, quality of time, quality of angles. How do I capture? And that is my responsibilities for my client, give the best result, best time and best locations. And whoever working on your shop floor, even in the manufacturing, your raw material sections, your production unit, and who is the other engineers and working your center, and how you capture their good mood, proper dress up. We cannot compromise. The simple people are coming in the industry where is the safety very important, and that particular shop floor, no one, if someone engineers or someone worker not wearing the safety, we cannot capture that image, because that is a negative approach goes to the other people. So you always remember one thing, for the safety point of view, safety shoes, safety belt, safety helmet, it is very important. So whenever you go for the shoot, even you, maybe lot of people who are associated with my steel power, electricity, oil sectors, you can see that your different unit, different people, different engineers are working, and we cannot capture a simple dress up without any proper safety belt, helmet, safety glass, eyeglass, gloves. If you capture without this, and then you can capture that image simple way and published in your website and even any other sectors positions, that is the negative approach for your corporate. So my request, please, whenever you go any corporate shoot, please you arrange as a proper discipline way, organize the proper safety, shoes, belt, helmet, glass, gloves, and avoid to the very dangerous part also. So as a photographer, that is also very important, how, where, when, and which particular areas you want to focus with their shop floor people. So as an industrial photographer, we have a lot of things when we go for any other industry. So there is a lot of engineering parts, different units, different sections, your control room, your research R&D division, your laboratory, your unit where you filtered your oil. I'm just giving the one example. So we have to be careful and capture proper lighting and proper setup that will reflect your brand and your particular making India's product, facilitate etc. Just like example, when you go for any dam, when you go for any assembly lines, when you go for any factories, when you go for any worker picture who is working the shop floor, we always capture as a good smiling faces. So we cannot capture their stitch, their in their face. Always that is the negative approach for the organizations. So that is also a very important part as an industrial and as a corporate photographer responsibility. I am giving one more very important things. As a technical part of a photographer, we cannot compromise our equipment. You can see that's my equipment. When you go for the industrial shoot, I have a different. First of all, we have to schedule what exactly we have to go for the capture of the particular assignments. We have to be disciplined. We have to make a list. So and so day we have to focus this industrial part, day and evening time, morning time and evening time, and then go for the inside your various aspects, R&D division, laboratory, your control room, blah blah blah. That time we have to know when, what kinds of lens we have to be used. You can see there is a different lens, 70 to 100. There is the long tail lens. There is a 24 lens. There is a fixed prime lens. 50 mm, 85, 20, 24, 24, 70, 14 mm. Industrial shoot we cannot. If you use as a wrong place, wrong lens, that's destroy your image. Just like if you go any tower or any unit shoot and that time you use as a fisheye, what is happened that time? Your tower is come like as a globe. We cannot showing that all the part is coming into the one circle area. So we have to know which lens, which particular place we have to be used. That's why we have different lens, different aspects we have used, and always use the light meter, calculation the meter, because of our nature is different time, different conditions, temperatures, light is different. So that time we use this light meter. This light meter always used in the studio shoot, product shoot, profile shoot, even in the industrial outdoor lighting condition. What is the perfect place? What is the unit? Different aspects, different light. We can measure this light meter. We have a filter, different filter. Here is already we use the different. This is the very important for the use filter, because that if you go for any unit in the daytime after 9 or 10:30, that time if you go for the sun's rise areas, and you can see there is a lot of reflection your plant unit. So how you cut off that is very important. We cannot depend on the Photoshop. Always remember, Photoshop is the secondary part. First priority, you have to be capture proper exposure, proper composition, and then we can go for the finishing. Others are the small elements that we can depend on the Photoshop. So why industrial photography is very important? I've already explained small way. Now I am giving a little bit broad way. Industrial photography is important because of the capture of the technology. Your shop floor facilitate, your technique, your new design of your manufacturing points, shop floor, and the people are working, how you capture. And most of the people do not know behind the people who are making the product. Means if you are manufacturing as a tire, and you go to the shop and buy the tire, but how to make tire? There's a different lot of people association, different areas, different aspects will make a tire. So when you go in the industry, the behind the scene, how they made the tire, that if you go and capture one by one sequence, and then you can update that how to make your tire through your social media, through your magazine, through your brochure, whatever. There is a lot of options. Then people can understand, wow, how the tire made in these kinds of industries. Next, I will go my third, that is very important, of the product photography. Product photography is why is very important. If you go anywhere, from your house to any market, any of the road, you can see the lot of branding, tire, car, food related, health related, machinery related, lot of advertisement. How you display your product for your branding promotion point of view, you should capture as a proper lighting product photography. Product photography is very important and very tough job for capture through your lens. How? If you made a fertilizer related, maybe in the urea, and there is a baggage, if you go at the unit and where the baggage is loading and stitching point, if you capture that moment, you cannot set up a proper light at there. You can show in one pictures how to stitching in the baggage or how the loading in the bag is the urea in your brand. But if you showing that particular product as a very professional way, you should set up a proper lighting, proper plain backdrop, and then you can capture. This is just like an example. So my suggestions, whenever you go for any product photography, never compromise. And why hiring professional industrial photographers? Because they have experience. They never compromise their quality of work. They have their ideas. So my suggestion, lot of people, they are just says, oh, this is the product, why you charging this? No, I am not asking for the charging whatever that the assignment charge. That is different way. But my request, please understand your product, your brand, that is displayed in the other aspects, means your product branding, maybe the packaging, maybe the glow sign board, maybe the newspapers, maybe in the brochure, hand related, whatever you purpose, even in the social media. If you, without a good quality pictures, if you publish that in social media, that is a negative approach for your product. So my suggestion, please, whenever you go for the product photography, please hire good photographer who knows how to display, how to capture your product, proper lighting, proper positions and proper branding. So what kinds of product photography is very important. If you in eBay, means the online shop business, means Amazon, Flipkart, eBay, then there is a lot of product, maybe the fashion related, product related. You can see that they use different clean backdrop with the clean product shoots. The same as well as if you are making the different product, you should follow the same single plain backdrop and click proper lighting. Third, lifestyle. If you are a lifestyle corporate, then if you use the model, if you use any mannequin, then you have to set up a proper lighting and proper backdrop. If you go for the outdoor, that is also the same. How to you use the outdoor lighting, that's also very important. So my suggestion, whenever you go for the product photography, you are always, as they take a good photographer for the quality of image they can give you, and then that will be displayed your purpose. So you can see my behind picture, there is a lot of people's image. You can see that I can explain the single image different way. How to capture way of locations, branding, person's standing positions, proper dress up, proper lighting, standing up situations. That's the profile, corporate profile image. How to capture their mood, small, tight face. That's, I will give you the slideshow in the end of my voice. So here you can see that's the locations, brand, your persons who I have captured. There's a neat and clean image. So this is why I am always ask you to please do not compromise to capture your brand value with a proper professional photographer. And that is the responsibility as a corporate photographer to give you the satisfactions and quality of image and quality of lighting and quality of times. I am coming the next. Why? Next step is branding promotion photography. I already explained that because these times the social media, everything in your fingertips, in your mobile, you can reach within second thousands, million of people to can involve your site through your good image. Branding promotion photography. This is very important aspects of as a corporate or maybe in the medium MSME sectors or any other businessmen. What is the brand photography? Brand photography, whatever your business, you promote your product, how you implement, how you use, how you will showing that particular product to your customers, to your client, and proper and design a good image. Image says thousands words. So remember one thing, for your branding photography, you never compromise. And my one single suggestions, there's a lot of agencies, they are selling their image. The one time you can use that image for your branding purpose and they are charges a lot of money. So my suggestion, if possible, if you are a big corporate, you have a different unit, you have a township, all the engineers and others people are staying in the township, you can use their kit. Just like 15 August, lot of corporate, lot of PSU sectors, company, they are using the outside children's pictures to promote their 15 August celebrations and other things. Why not use that? Your township, your engineers, your colleagues' children's pictures. And then that is your assets. One time click, 1,000 times you can use. So that is a true aspect. You promote your brand through your in-house people. So I have done that thing, ideas to the lot of PSU and even in the private sectors, and they are implement that and they're happy. How to, as a corporate, as an industrial photographer, share the thought process, branding, promotion, how to promote, why you use that pictures in the outside agencies pictures. You can use that image, your internal people, your colleagues, wife, kids, you can arrange and go, and you just first make a list what kinds of image you are looking for your branding purpose. Maybe in the New Year, maybe in the 25th Christmas, maybe in the 15th August, maybe in the 26th Jan. So that if you plan before and if you organize that as a session, your township area, you go there, ask the people, management people, we are coming for the shoot, you can ask them to, we are segment different dresses, Indian ethnic, Indian formal, whatever. And you can segregate different aspects image. And that is your image bank. And that image you can use several times. If you use one picture or buy the one picture from the agency, that's the one time and that charges a lot of money. So that is the branding photography. My suggestion as a corporate photographer, I always explain to my client, please do not buy agencies pictures, use in-house your internal people's or internal manufacturing point, whatever. So that is very important for the branding promotions. My next is very important, that is CSR, corporate social responsibilities. I saw a lot of pictures that are same, You have done fantastic job for the CSR, for the societies. But the image quality, if you go in any CSR particular story, brochure, you can see that all the people using the same kinds of image. Just I'm giving you one example. If you provide a midday meal, then you can see that the school, all the kids are sitting into the floor and they are having midday meal. If you go in the sanitizing process, you can see the lot of girl students, they are sitting and someone speaking or any NGO speech. If you go any particular health related, there is a health center behind the scene, there is a lot of, you have a banner and the doctor or the nurse, they are sitting and the people are standing, maybe in the sitting. Why? He thought how to create a good image and showing how it works. And recently I have done that things to the Indian Oil Corporation Limited in Mathura for the special project of CSR. And that image is creation in a different way. And one is DCM Syringe. We are going to the Hardoi and we have done the township. There is a particular place. There is a lot of village girls. They are coming, having their training for the stitching, design. And we are showing very different aspects from their house to their particular training center and after that. So that is sequence. If you capture the sequence, how to change your organization for the societies. So that's very important as a corporate social responsibilities. Your work through the good image, that is as a storyline base. Not like you go in, some of the girls they are sitting in the stitching machine, click. You go into the school, teachers having class and students sitting. No, you thought different way. Then you can solve your CSR, corporate social responsibility, societies के लिए जो आप करने जा रहे हो, whatever you have done or whatever you are doing for the next, if you plan accordingly, then you can show your image free from the others. So my request, please do not compromise this particular sector's corporate social responsibilities images through a good conceptual image. My overall conclusion, what is the important as an industrial photographer, as a corporate photographer? That is the one is the corporate profile of your organization head. Maybe the chairman, maybe the managing directors, maybe the CEOs, how do you shoot them? And second is the industrial photography, your production unit, your industry, how do you capture through your camera and good angle and good lighting, proper locations, and third is the CSR, corporate social responsibilities. The three aspects is very, very important. Because of that, your image creation always depend on your good professional corporate photographer. Why you are hiring me? That is very important, because you do not take a risk. You want a good image that will help to create your brand. So a lot of people, they do not understand that what is the important role as an industrial photographer, as a corporate photographer. So I will come next time, more details if I have a chance. Then I explain why important as an image. I already explained that. Repeat, I always says to my client, the image creations, your brand is very important. You can see my behind. There's a lot of corporate people's photographs. I will share that image through my this particular sessions, industrial photography, product photography, and corporate profile photography. So I think, and that's the most important, that your equipment, what kinds of equipment you have, that is very, very important. because gradually the camera, the equipment, now the modernizations for the digitalize. There's a good quality of image. If you want, then you have to be clear, good camera, good lens. That's very, very important. So I will try to my experience about the industrial and the corporate and the product photography. Hope you people understand me also, what I have, my experience, and which I share with you through my voice, through my experience, through my image, and hope this will help you in your next level. If you want me to describe my work, I will always ready to come and share my thoughts. That is depend on your requirement. So as a corporate photographer, Shekhar Ghosh, I am finishing here. Hope you people enjoy my session and give me your feedback. Please give me your feedback and suggestion that will help me in my next level. Thank you. All the best. Namaskar.
Thank you, Mr. Ghosh, for very interesting presentation on photography. Friends, in our lives, even in corporate world, a crisis is something which never comes us without telling. Friends, in our lives, even in corporate world, a crisis situation is something which comes to us without any notice. Public relation plays a key role in that situation. Let's get enlightened with crisis communication, how to effectively navigate a crisis. This presentation is brought to you by Dr. Jaya Srivastava, Assistant Professor, Apeejay Institute of Mass Communication, Dwarka, New Delhi. Dr. Jaya Srivastava is Joint Secretary, Public Relations of India, Delhi Chapter, and Assistant Professor at Apeejay Institute of Mass Communication with over 10 years of corporate, academic, and research experience. She has earned a doctorate in mass communication, journalism, and her research interests focus on framing analysis. Let us hear from Dr. Jay.
Hello everyone. I am Dr. Jaya Srivastava, Joint Secretary, Public Relations Society of India, Delhi Chapter, and Assistant Professor at Apeejay Institute of Mass Communication. It is my pleasure and an honor to be delivering a talk on crisis communication, how to effectively navigate a crisis in All India Public Relations Conference, an initiative of Public Relations Society of India. Crises are atypical events that might be predictable but are not expected when they occur. Crises can be damaging to an organization, individuals within the organization, and the stakeholders of the organization. They compel organizations to communicate with various publics in order to limit the damages of the crisis. The quality of these communications can either ameliorate or aggravate a crisis. But how does a company land into a crisis in the very first place? Well, mostly because it does something illegal, immoral, wrong, and then it tries to hide it. But sometimes that is not the case. Regardless, when in crisis, there is a relentless and unforgiving trend towards information transparency. Hundreds of millions of electronic eyes and ears are creating a capacity and new demand for accountability. Why is crisis communication so important in today's day and age? Well, crises are disruptive events that sow fear, confusion, and uncertainty. When a crisis emerges, the organization's priority is to ensure the well-being of the affected stakeholders or the publics is ensured. Its internal priority is to regain balance and stability and ensure the continuation of its operations, which is not possible to achieve without the active participations of its entire staff. To achieve any semblance of continuity in a time of crisis, organizations must ensure that their members are safe, informed, and on board. Quality communication is key in this process. Organizations need to communicate in order to inform their personnel, allay fears, and provide guidance on how to proceed forward. Conversely, lack of communication will only increase the uncertainty and create room for rumors to spread. Let's start with the presentation now. Before we go further into crisis communication, let's take a quick look at what are the various kinds of crises that an organization or individuals can face. Well, the first is the natural disasters. Natural disasters are large-scale geological or meteorological events that have the potential to cause loss of life or property. For example, floods, earthquakes, drought, severe storms, typhoons are some of the most common examples of natural disasters. People and physical assets at the site are typically the first things leaders think of when they contemplate natural disasters. Those are certainly the most important. However, acts of God can also imperil financial assets, reputation, and shareholder value in unpredictable ways. If a flood in another country puts one of your manufacturer or vendors out of action, you may experience the impacts from a natural disaster in your corporate office at another safe location. However, there are certain things that you can follow when faced with natural disasters. The first and the foremost is having a people-first approach. You should have a detailed, well-planned crisis communication processes for securing lives of people and their health. Also important is to deploy resources or teams for crucial tasks. You will need to think about relief materials that you can arrange for your employees and people in general. Have a place have in place disaster related communication for employees and a strong coordination with hospitals. Also, in such cases, it is important to be crisis ready, assuming that you won't be able to communicate. Connectivity is an important part of a social fabric. It is very important to address this. This can be done by ensuring that there are multiple communication channels via which you are in touch with your employees. Also, remember that nothing says concern and control like placing your leader at the scene. In certain cases, that may not be possible, but the leader and the spokesperson should be in the eye of the public and regularly communicating with all the stakeholders. The second kind of crisis is employee misconduct. Employee crises take place when an employee or an individual who is associated with a company acts in an unethical or illegal manner. Whether this occurs within the workplace or in an employee's personal life, it can cause tremendous backlash against the company. As the individual has been employed by the organization, its lack of judgment can be reflected on the company's reputation. In these cases, you will need to understand and identify the scope of the situation, determine appropriate disciplinary action, and if necessary, provide a written or verbal statement. In such a case, it's very important to first properly evaluate the situation and determine how severely the individual violated your company's values. This will help you determine the right responsive action to take against the individual. Finally, if this situation has drawn media attention, you will want to be transparent to these outlets and inform them and the public alike about the actions that you're taking. A case involving food delivery giant Zomato pertains to this category. Earlier in 2021, there was an incident involving a Bengaluru woman alleging that she was assaulted by a Zomato delivery person, leading to his arrest the same day by the city police. In a longer video on Instagram, she claimed her nose was broken in the accident and she needed to undergo surgery. Later, the delivery agent who had worked as a delivery boy for 3 years then countered the woman's allegations, stating that she abused him and threw slippers at him. After this version came to light, people extended support to him on social media and demanded an unbiased investigation. In all of this, Zomato's communication, be it via Zomato Care or via Dipinder Goyal, founder and CEO of Zomato, on the social media platforms was prompt and empathetic. The company, without wasting time, found out both the sides of the story, and its communication was unbiased and understanding to both the parties who represented two very important publics of the organization, the delivery persons and the consumers. This is the statement issued by Mr. Dipinder Goyal, founder and CEO of Zomato, on social media, which clearly states that Zomato is regularly in touch uh, with Hitesha and also with Kamaraj, who was the delivery person. And they are extending all possible support to both the sides. While Zomato had initially temporarily suspended the delivery executive, they were covering all his legal expenses pertaining to the case, along with covering the medical expenses of the consumer. Let's have a look at the third kind of crisis, which is product tampering. Product tampering has a devastating impact on consumers and product marketers. Product tampering occurs when a person makes unauthorized changes to products that other people consume, such as food, drink, or medications. There are certain things that an organization can do while dealing with such a crisis. The first and the foremost is to get a crisis management team in place, gather and corroborate facts as soon as possible, and quickly acknowledge the problem and show concern. Voluntarily, there should be a recall of all harmful products if there is a perceived threat. And it is also important to provide direct information regarding harm to consumers. Interestingly, before 1982, nobody ever recalled anything. However, Johnson & Johnson provided a new template for crisis communication in 1982 when it fell victim to product tampering. In 1982, a 12-year-old girl and two men who were brothers died after taking extra strength Tylenol capsules, an over-the-counter painkiller manufactured by Johnson & Johnson. Tylenol was intentionally poisoned with potassium cyanide by someone other than a company personnel. Rather than resisting the entire scenario, Johnson & Johnson had carefully, one step at a time, escalated its actions to deal with the crisis. First, it shut down the Tylenol capsule production line, and then it withdrew all the capsules from sale. The executives went on morning news shows to promise the capsules would not return to the shelves until a tamper-proof package had been perfected. A new product was introduced, and Johnson & Johnson offered to exchange all Tylenol capsules for Tylenol tablets. More than 31 million bottles of Tylenol capsules were believed to be in consumers' medicine chests and on pharmacists' shelves. Almost $1 billion worth of the drug at retail prices. There may not be a drop of cyanide in any of those bottles, but all of them were to be destroyed. From the day the deaths were linked to the poison Tylenol until the recall, Johnson & Johnson succeeded in portraying itself to the public as a company willing to do what's right regardless of the cost. Serving the public interest had simultaneously saved the company's reputation, and this was a lesson in public responsibility and public relations for years to come. The next kind of crisis pertain to fake news, misinformation, disinformation, and rumors. Fake news is a fabricated information that mimics news media content in form, but not in organizational processes or intent. Fake news outlets, in turn, lack the news media's editorial norms and processes for ensuring the accuracy and credibility of information. Fake news overlaps with other information disorders such as misinformation, which means false or misleading information, and disinformation, which means false information that is purposely spread to deceive people. Rumors are, on the other hand, circulating stories, reports, opinions, talks of uncertain and distorted truth. The Kurkure plastic controversy, worms in Cadbury's, the PepsiCo syringe crisis are all examples of misinformation that was spread. A few years back, a rumor, Kurkure plastic controversy, whose origins are untraceable to a single source, stated a baseless fact that Kurkure contained plastic elements due to which Kurkure, when burnt, melts into a black residue which was assumed to be plastic by the general population. These Kurkure plastic video escalated and went viral when following such claims. People began uploading videos on online forums and social media platforms, showing them conducting their own little experiments, burning Kurkure to show the black residue formed at the end. The Kurkure plastic controversy spread like wildfire, making every Indian mother question her choices for her child and its effect on their health, if any. Many continue to believe Kurkure plastic rumors that seem to escalate and spread to other social media platforms with time. PepsiCo carried out several campaigns such as Share Kurkure, not rumors, to stop the rumors and provided transparency of the inner workings of their manufacturing plant. They invited people, especially young women bloggers, to eradicate these widespread yet inaccurate Kurkure plastic rumors. Along with these campaigns, they also cleared the misconception that the reason Kurkure burned was because it contained plastic. They helped their customer base understand the real reason behind the black residue, which was not plastic but burnt starch, and educated the people of the fact that Kurkure is made of high levels of salt, fats, and carbohydrates, which burns similarly when ignited. However, even years later, this rumor has not died down. There are still WhatsApp messages being forwarded that talk about the plastic in Kurkure. The soft drink giant was so concerned about its public image that it filed a defamation case in 2018 in the Delhi High Court against Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, demanding rupees 2.1 crore in damages. Two orders from the court in June 2018 directed that all URLs, web links that directly or indirectly implied that Kurkure contained plastic have to be removed immediately. In its petition, PepsiCo had given a list of 3,412 Facebook links, over 20,000 Facebook posts, around 250 YouTube videos, 6 Instagram links, and around 500 tweets that it claimed were disparaging and defamatory in nature. These can no longer be found on the social media platforms. Yet another case of product tampering was the 1993 Pepsi syringe crisis. The claim of a syringe found in a can of Diet Pepsi that arose in 1993 was never really proven. Yet, the soft drink company spent $25 million defending itself under siege. The costs of the crisis included a temporary drop in sales, special contacts with the company's customers, production of a video showing the bottling process, and complete devotion of the company's entire workforce to the problem for 5 days. 5 company representatives gave thousands of interviews over 5 days. The company's chief executive officer, attempting to be open and confident, appeared on 5 network talk shows in a single day. The company probably came out of it stronger than before. And in what was probably something of a sympathy backlash, sales bounced back the following month due to the best July on record for the century-old company. A lot of customers thought that they were victimized. Via strong communication, such rumors can be put to end. Let's understand how to respond to damaging online rumors. Well, the strategy to deal with such rumors and hoaxes is by drowning out the rumors and posts, articles, and posting articles, video, populating and potentially dominating the search engines. But how can this be done? The first method could be to create video responses. In this, what can be done is that the company can use targeted keywords and phrases within your video's content, that is the description. And it can be shared as much as possible on social media, along with asking your fans and followers to share it too. Secondly, what is also important is to craft the messages very carefully. In general, any of the extremes should be avoided, especially negative extreme words, and milder form of showing resentment can be included in the communication. Also, it is always best not to use automated responses on social media without properly understanding the context in which a query or a post by a user has been made. Once the context has been understood, it is only then that somebody from the PR team or the social media team should be handling such queries and communication. Also, it is important to think about the narrative, the language, and facts. A very good example of strong communication under Share Kurkure Not Rumors campaign is this, wherein in a TV commercial, a female celebrity is speaking with a food scientist regarding the reasons why Kurkure has a black residue when it burns. Let's have a quick look at this video.
కుర్కురే ఎంత సేఫ్ అయినదో నన్ను చెప్పమని కుర్కురే టీం అడిగింది. అందుకే నేను రినౌండ్ ఫుడ్ సైంటిస్ట్ డాక్టర్ బర్దన్ గారి దగ్గరికి కుర్కురే ఎంత సేఫో కనుక్కోడానికి వెళ్ళాను. Why does kurkure catch fire when exposed to direct flame?
Food items like potato chips, murukku contains carbohydrates, proteins and oils. So when it's exposed to flame, it catches fire.
There is no plastic and it still catches fire?
Yes, kurkure is made of trusted high-quality kitchen ingredients. I assure you, kurkure is 100% safe.
నేను డబుల్ చెక్ చేసి కుర్కురేలో ఎలాంటి ప్లాస్టిక్ లేదని 100% సేఫ్ అని నేను నమ్ముతున్నాను. ఇక ఈ విషయాన్ని అందరికీ చెప్పాల్సింది మీరే. షేర్ కుర్కురే, నాట్ రూమర్స్.
The fifth kind of crisis or category of crisis can be organization misdeeds. Crisis of organizational misdeeds arise when the management takes certain decisions without knowing the harmful consequences of the same towards the stakeholders and external parties. In such cases, superiors ignore the after effects of strategies and implement the same for quick results. For example, crisis of organizational misdeeds can be further classified into the following three types. The first is skewed management values that arise when management supports short-term growth and ignores broader issues. Deception. When organizations face a crisis of deception, the management can either purposely tamper with the data and information. For example, accepting bribes, passing on confidential information, etc. And the third is management misconduct. Examples of management misconduct include withholding information, exploiting customers, and misusing managerial powers. Changing company culture is the best way to address organizational crisis because these problems are typically caused by employees who neglect customer needs. Embracing an organizational culture that's dedicated to customer success can reduce the chances of encountering an internal crisis. Additionally, you should proceed to hire employees who are closely aligned with your company's values. Let's take a look at a couple of examples of management misconduct. The first one is the Volkswagen Dieselgate. Dubbed as the Emission Gate or Dieselgate, in 2015, the US Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, found that many Volkswagen cars being sold in America had a defeat device or software in diesel engines that could detect when they were being tested, changing the performance accordingly to improve results. This caused the vehicle's nitrogen oxide output to meet US standards during regulatory testing, while they emitted up to 40 times more nitrogen oxide in the real world driving. Volkswagen deployed this software in about 11 million cars worldwide, including 500,000 in the United States. In model years 2009 through 2015. According to the EPA, Volkswagen had insisted for a year before the outbreak of the scandal that discrepancies were mere technical glitches. Volkswagen fully acknowledged that they had manipulated the vehicle emission tests only after being confronted with the evidence regarding their defeat device. Also, the admission came after the EPA threatened to withhold approval for the company's 2016 Volkswagen and Audi diesel models. Another crisis that belongs to this category could be the Wells Fargo crisis. Wells Fargo is a financial services company. To meet sales quota, the employees of this organization illegally opened millions of fake customer accounts without the customer's consent. Employees falsified signatures and created fake records that resulted in billions of dollars in revenue in 2020. Wells Fargo paid a settlement of $3 billion to cover the corporate penalties incurred. The last kind of crisis, which is another kind of crisis, are those emanating from wrong messaging in brand communication. And this is something that PR and marketing folks must look at very, very carefully. If the narrative, messaging, or timing of a communication campaign is erroneous, it can land the brand in troubled waters. In 2013, Bud Light created the Up for Whatever campaign, which received harsh criticism and misinterpretations since its launch. In 2015, Bud Light bottles included the slogan, "The perfect beer for removing no from your vocabulary for the night" on its bottles. Bud Light's original goal was to connect with the college audience and position themselves as a carefree, light-hearted, spontaneous brand that caters to the slogan of "Up for whatever" and "whatever happens next," instead of saying no to new experiences. But the actual outcome of the campaign was severely harsh criticism of the Bud Light brand, as celebrities, public officials, and college students that were their target audiences all dubbed Bud Light the date rape beer. It became a heated conversation on Twitter, with hardly anyone taking Bud Light's side in this case. Many users went straight to questioning the thought process of the entire corporation and associated the bad judgment of the campaign with bad judgment by the company. Ultimately, the company had to publish an official statement and apology for this tactless campaign, and has since moved towards positioning themselves as a socially responsible organization. Let's understand now how we can effectively prevent and plan for risks associated with communication campaigns. Well, the first step is by assessing the risk. We can all ask questions, like, what's the worst thing that can come from this particular campaign? Or what's the worst thing that can happen? How can this campaign be misinterpreted in any way? Can we potentially cause offense or isolate a segment of our market? Has a similar campaign been launched before? And if so, did it suffer any negative publicity for any reason? The second step can be to conduct another quick risk assessment before the campaign goes live. A week or so before the campaign goes live, quickly take a look at what's going on within your community, the industry, and the world at large. A quick tip while communicating during a crisis is that passing the blame is simply not an acceptable crisis response. When you pass the buck, it appears that you do not have the common sense or the moral ethics to own up to your mistakes and provide the victims and the public alike with a sincere and truthful apology. In 2018, United Airlines came across a similar crisis wherein certain officials dragged a 69-year-old man out of the airplane. And we can see over here that the man is severely bleeding from his nose and his mouth. When this crisis came to public knowledge, which was when people that were on board during that flight made videos and shared their disapproval on social media, one of the first statements came from the airline spokesperson, Charlie Hoga, which stated it was pretty shocking that it got to the level that it got to. In part, that's the man's fault. When the police came on, he shouldn't have resisted. He should have just left. But it was a pretty unbelievable scene with them grabbing him and pulling off. This is a classic example of communication and statement that lacks empathy and has not been able to register what has happened. Well, after this, the crisis in United Airlines' key market, China, came about, wherein the netizens were saying the boycotting starts with me, wherein they were cutting the United Airlines card and posting it on social media, stating that they are boycotting United Airlines. Ultimately, after some time, a statement from United Airlines CEO Oscar Munoz was released, wherein he took full responsibility of the entire incident and also stated that United Airlines is going to put in place systems to ensure that this does not happen again. Now, once an organization understands that they are in the wrong, sooner or later, they have to come out with an apology statement. It is always better, once this understanding has dawned, to issue an apology as soon as possible instead of passing the buck, which in this case clearly did not work for United Airlines. During these situations, what people truly want to see is regular and timely updates that they can count on. And for this to happen, it is important that in today's digital world, the company and its key executives are on social media. If regular and timely updates are posted on social media, the chances of rumors spreading and alternate narratives building against the organization are highly decreased. It is also not just words, but action from the company, corrective action from the company that is what the public at large is seeking. So an organization must state what is it doing to rectify the present situation and how are they going to ensure that this does not happen in the future. And the last is that in your communication, you should always ensure that you're putting across the company as an organization that actually cares and is sincerely apologetic. In a recent example, Mint, there was an during the Mint annual banking conclave, the issue of gender diversity amongst the panelists was raised. That is, not many women speakers were there on the panel. When there was a criticism regarding this, Mint's editor-in-chief, he immediately issued out a statement and stated, well, we made a mistake. And this apology has gained, is being widely shared today on social media because people today have trust in Mint that they are able to understand the kind of problem, the kind of crisis, the kind of issue that was with regards to less gender diversity amongst the panelists. And it also states what is Mint going to do in order to rectify in future events. While these were a few kind of crises that we had a look at, and also the kind of communication that can be done during a crisis, let's now look at different phases of a crisis and what should be the communication strategies during these phases. Timothy Coombs, a leading scholar in communication, identifies three distinct phases of crisis communication. The first is pre-crisis phase, the second is crisis response phase, and the third is post-crisis communication. Each of these stages carries its distinct demands for collecting and interpreting information and then distributing that knowledge, which is why it is important to examine them separately. The first is the pre-crisis phase, wherein the crisis hasn't taken place yet, but it does not prevent organizations from planning and preparing for that eventuality. The activities in the pre-crisis phases are focused on two areas. First is prevention, and the second is preparing. Prevention of potential crisis is reflected in the attempts to reduce risks by identifying emerging developments and issues that could potentially escalate into a crisis. Early identification of such issues allows organizations to analyze and strategize their response. Preparing for a potential crisis can only go to a certain extent due to the unpredictable nature of many crises, which means that organizations can only identify and plan for a limited number of specific scenarios. However, planning and preparation do not need to be related to specific scenarios. There may be many general steps and actions that organizations can take to prepare to respond to a potential crisis. And they start with forming a response team, designating a spokesperson, ensuring an effective communication network among employees, complete with reliable technology, readily available contact information, multiple means of contact, etc., formulating procedures and guidelines, providing relevant training like communication skills, crisis management for relevant individuals. Crisis response phase is the second stage. In this stage, a crisis impacting an organization is already unfolding, and the organization has to respond to the events. The collective body of experience of organizations responding to crisis has resulted in the formulation of three universally accepted principles of crisis communication. The first is be quick, the second is be accurate, and the third is be consistent. In a crisis, even more important than how we communicate is what we communicate throughout the life cycle of crisis. Professor Sturgis has defined three focus areas based on strategic focus of the communicated content. And these are instructing information, adjusting information, and internalizing information. Instructing information is for the safety of those affected. And this is the first priority in a crisis. In order to protect themselves, organizations must protect their stakeholders. Instructing information informs people impacted by the crisis, for example, employees, etc., public, etc., how they should act. In case of employees, this type of information lets them know how to protect their physical well-being and, in general, how to best navigate the crisis at hand. Adjusting information is, in essence, it serves to inform public how to psychologically cope with this crisis. This type of communication usually involves expressions of sympathy and announcements of any corrective actions to take place, to be taken to prevent the crisis from reoccurring. And the last, that is the internalizing information, is, well, as the initial impact of the crisis subsides, the communication focus can once again shift. Internalizing information is the information that is used to formulate the subjective image of an organization. However, in the context of internal communication, internalizing information should be aimed at restoring and reinforcing stability and the trust of employees towards the organization. The last stage, that is the post-crisis communication, is extremely important. Communication should not cease once a crisis is considered resolved, as its consequences can linger long after its conclusion. Post-crisis communication represents an extension of the previous communication activities, coupled with the lessons learned from the crisis. Its primary aim is to manage the reactions of different stakeholders. As an organization exits the period of crisis and attempts to revert to its usual operations, employees will want to know certain things. For example, when will things get back to normal? What will the normal look like? How has the crisis impacted the organization, and what are the steps that the organization will take in order to prevent the crisis from ever happening again? Post-crisis communication is primarily concerned with reputation management. Crisis communication should be rooted in preparation and fueled by compassion. The importance of effective internal communication grows in time of crisis. In fact, due to disruptive nature of a crisis, employees will be desperate for information, guidance, and support. Even before they are affected by a crisis, organizations need to install the basic mechanisms and designate key personnel for such eventualities. While physical safety is always the primary concern, compassion and empathy need to be the focus of internal communication through turbulent times. Now let's look at crisis preparation best practices. Well, the first is monitoring. And in order to monitor in the digital age, social media listening tools are the best ways. The second is having a crisis management plan and updating it at least annually. The third is having a designated crisis management team that is properly trained, and it will involve people from top level in the management, somebody from the legal team, somebody from operations, and obviously people from communications or public relations. The fourth is to conduct a mock crisis management exercise or drill annually to test the crisis management plan and the team. And if there are any loopholes that are found during this drill, they should be addressed effectively, immediately. It is also important to pre-draft crisis management messages for certain scenarios that can be expected either in an organization or in an industry per se. So messages including content for website and templates for crisis statements on social media should be there. It is also important to include a section on crisis communication in the organization's social media policies. Apart from these, it is always better to have a strong presence on social media. Remember, the public and the media would want updates on the situation, and social media is the best way to present your side of the story accurately and timely. Also important is to take accountability and do the right thing. If there is anything that the public hates more than the crisis, it is the organization trying to shift the blame. Your social media team should also be aware of how to best resolve an issue raised on social media, whether it is better to engage with the person who has raised it online, or if it requires more detailed information, how to take the conversation offline. Well, and with this, we come to the end of the presentation. I hope that we have been able to understand some of the do's and the don'ts for an organization when in crisis. Last but not the least, I would once again like to thank Public Relations Society of India for giving me this opportunity to deliver this talk. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jaya, for your superb presentation on crisis management. With this, we conclude the proceedings for Day 2, the 43rd All India PR Conference. I, Sheetal Sharma, sign off with a reminder to you all that we meet for the Day 3 proceedings tomorrow at 10 a.m. Namaste.